Kelly had to go, so that's why we had him first. We actually wanted to do an overview on VR. I think there's a lot of misinterpretation of what virtual reality is. And we actually today, before this, Kelly was talking about VR in 360 film world. So 360 film is what a lot of film people are calling VR because you feel very immersed where you are putting goggles, either the cardboard that will actually go through the different headsets, and then you see a 360 film where you can kind of like see the full front, back, exactly like how these cameras are set up. And that's not what virtual reality is. You guys will actually get to experience. We're setting up virtual reality experiences here where you are actually more immersed, where you can touch that world that you are going into. So that's what I wanted to tell you a little bit more about. The cameras are one way to capture these realities, but we're going to talk more about the interactive pieces behind virtual reality. So right now, so 360 is to record, but then for you to actually experience 360, one of the kind of the easiest version of 360 is a Google Cardboard, and it's basically this cardboard that looks like the old school. I don't know if you guys remember the Viewmaster, where you put the little slides of pictures and you can kind of look through them. So that's what Google Cardboard, and it's very cheap. It's like I think $10 now they're selling them. Sometimes they're giving away once. If we get Google Tilt and Google Cardboard in here, they definitely give out those for free. But it's really to get people to see that your phone itself can be a VR viewer. So you can actually download VR 360 film, put it on Google Cardboard, and walk around and see 360 films. They do have a couple of digital version of that, like 3D created worlds. So you're gonna see low fidelity. It's more like, imagine, you guys remember the Nintendo 64 era where like everything was like polygon 3D, and then we got to PlayStation and Xbox and everything became 3D rendered and it looks really beautiful? That's the difference between kind of the mobile VR experience and then what you guys are going to see here when you guys have like a full-on computer hooked up to a Vive or Oculus headset. City wants me to join the Wi-Fi. And then the next version is instead of carrying the little annoying cardboard and you have to hold the cardboard up the entire to see the scene, a lot of people have kind of created, Viewmaster recreated theirs now where you can put in a phone, and it's just lenses that allows you to see 360 into two lenses, two eyes. And so you have kind of designs that are a little bit more expensive. These probably go for like $40, $50. Everyone is kind of getting into this business where they're trying to create a really cool plastic-looking Gear VR, which goes to the next piece. The Gear VR is really the best mobile experience you're going to get. The Gear VR itself has positional tracking, so if you are moving left and right, the headphone itself knows that you are moving in that space left to right, up and down. And then you have a side input over here that looks like a little plus sign for moving characters, like in a game. So you can, I feel like I'm playing Cyclops from X-Men, or, thank you. This is it right here, the Gear VR. And you can see on this side, there's kind of this movement. It works almost like it's like a touch control, just like a phone. But you feel like Cyclops, you have to put your finger there to activate the different things in the world. And that, but it's still really great to get an experience, to kind of get a mobile VR game in there. It has sensors, it has accelerometer, the graphics a little bit better, it's still based on your phone. So right now, the Galaxy S7 just announced that with every S7, they're just going to give you Gear VR, because they believe that VR is the next evolution. And we finally get to the Oculus. I think a lot of you guys know about the Oculus because of the whole Facebook acquisition and their original crowdfunding 2 years ago. And now they released back in early April for consumer. But they are just a headset. So just to let you guys know that that's kind of the headset that is there. But in the fall, around September, October, they are releasing touch controls. So we are developers for the Oculus Touch Control, which is really exciting now because I think they're doing a major push for 2016 Christmas time. So So we'll see. The Oculus headset did really well. I think they're sold out everywhere right now. It's probably like 2 months before you can get yours. So Oculus is doing really well. They're much heavier in terms of experience. Now this is where you're actually connected to PC, not a phone. So you're getting closer to like Xbox 360 graphics, but it's still very limited because everyone's still kind of figuring out how does a 360 experience kind of convert to video games. Same thing that's happening with movies. You lost your frame and you have 360 space. How are you going to do a movie now? So gamers are having the same issue where do you put so much information in 360 space, that means your hardware is going to be taxed. Or are people just really paying attention to what's in front of them? And that's really the major push. And finally, we have the HTC Vive, which we love the HTC Vive, and you guys can see about 3 HTCs today. And they're kind of pushing the envelope of virtual reality, where they believe from the get-go, you should be able to touch things in the world. A lot of times when we had cardboard experiences, you have these people kind of doing that called ghost VR, where they're trying to touch the things in VR. And it's so natural for us to want to grab things that we see. So the HTC Vive comes with controllers right from the get-go, where you can now see your hands in virtual reality. But the amazing things that they did is actually what we call room scale VR. And you'll see this is little 2 boxes that looks like infrared bases that allows you to move in space, and it's converted into virtual reality. So right now, one of the biggest things that's tough to do in virtual reality is navigation. If you have a really awesome big room, how do you move your character from here to that point? And that's where a lot of motion sickness happens. A lot of people have decided, okay, how do we avoid that because of motion sickness? Teleportation being kind of the most obvious one that people have been using. But with room scale VR, you kind of have this 10 by 10 space, and no matter what, if I walk left to right, it's going to capture me in virtual reality. And that was what's really exciting. So now my motion is when I move, not my controllers telling me I'm going to move in the world. So it's very much a one-on-one experience, and that's where the motion sickness disappears. And I hope you guys all get a chance to check out the lab today, because you'll really get a sense of being there. And I think that's what everyone's touting VR to be, is you feel like you're there versus you're a third person looking at a story from a third person eye view. You are now in that reality, living it, and able to affect that reality. And really exciting thing that's coming out is the relationship of augmented reality and virtual reality. Do you guys all know what augmented reality is? VR. So most of us in VR really believe AR is the future. I also believe AR is the future, but VR is kind of like the baby steps that needs to happen so that we can get to AR. Because AR is much more complicated in the sense that if you see here, you have to capture the reality, and then you have to do mathematics on what the reality is. So augmented as just a 3D piece in your own reality, but you have to understand this is a floor, so if I put a character here, it's a floor. And that's where the calculation is much tougher. So you have kind of like a pass-through camera. And so Leap Motion did something really exciting, is they kept the Oculus or Vive headset, and the camera records it, but then it captures your hand. So your hand becomes a control. So it's very limited, because if you put your hands out here and the camera's in front, it will not register your hand. But if you put your hand in front of it, it actually captures every single digit. So it's really interesting, because now your hand and every digit can become buttons and navigation. So now we're talking about a very interesting navigation input from capturing your hand in the augmented reality mod. So that's kind of in a nutshell where the technology's at. The hardware is by far hasn't been peaked to its full potential. I think right now all the hardware manufacturers kind of said, I think this is what the future of VR is going to be, and they pushed the technology to the furthest point. Now they're wondering what content will actually use the best of the hardware. And that's where now we're starting to see a shift from who's going to be the hardware that comes out. The hardware's out, the consumers have them in their hands now. The question is, what's the content race? And that's what's really exciting for us, and that's why we had this whole second Saturday, is we want people like you guys who are excited in VR to come and share any kind of VR content that you guys have seen out there. Play virtual reality. I tell everyone, it's like, I can't describe virtual reality until I put on a pair of goggles on your face. Like, it's really hard to describe. Most people go, oh, I've seen virtual reality, and virtual reality, the word virtual reality has been around for like almost 20 years. I know Philippe here from Disney did a version of virtual reality where it was physical cannons, but then it was more of the animation of the cannon shooting was more of a digital format. You weren't wearing goggles, but your space was this virtual space. So now we're getting to a place where you're wearing goggles, and that's your virtual reality. And that is a very exciting place because consumers can buy these. I mean, the Vive is $800. You just have a really good computer running and you're now ready to be in virtual reality. So that has been very exciting for us, and that's why we're kind of bringing all these developers, all these content people here, so that you guys get to experience and hopefully kind of join other teams to develop more content. So we're going to have Tim next talk about optimization, which is really important in virtual reality.